What's up, Lachlan? It's Mr. Petrelli coming at you for another video about how music works. Now today, if you've seen my other videos, you know that the setting is a little bit different, and that's okay. We're not in my music room today. We are actually in the middle of my dining room. And the reason for that is that we need a little bit of surface area to teach you what I'm going to teach you today, which is all about percussion instruments. Well, what's a percussion instrument? Easy, simple, you know it already. A percussion instrument is any kind of instrument that keeps a rhythm. That's what it's primarily used for in a band or a group of instruments. It keeps the beat, it keeps the rhythm. And that, as you kindergartners and first graders especially know, is super important. The steady beat is the most important thing of any song, of any band, of any kind of group of instruments or music. Without a steady beat, the rest of it kind of falls apart. The steady beat is the foundation of the song. And without a foundation, everything that's built up on top of it eventually crumbles, or it doesn't even get built at all. It doesn't work. If you have a shaky beat, the band doesn't know how to play and they can't play together. If you have a house that's built on a shaky foundation, the rest of the house is eventually going to fall. So percussion instruments are super important to any band, to any musician, to any song. So what is a percussion instrument? Well, in order to keep the rhythm, you play a percussion instrument in one of a couple of different ways. You can hit it, either with your hand or with a mallet of some kind or a stick. You can shake it, you can rub it, or you can scrape it, and other ways too. Now, there are three major or main kinds of percussion instruments. It gets a little confusing later on, but there's three basic kinds of percussion instruments. And to help you understand what those are, I brought along Squishy Baby's instrument box right here. So the first kind of percussion instrument that helps to keep a beat uses some kind of moving part either on it or in it that vibrates and makes that noise. For example, a xylophone. Beautiful. That's one kind of percussion instrument. But also something that has something inside that makes a noise is a rattle or a shaker. This is an egg shaker because it looks like an egg. Okay? That's one kind. A different kind of percussion instrument have bodies in it that vibrate, that makes the actual noise, like bells or cymbals. That's all they got. But anything where the actual instrument vibrates, that is a percussion instrument as well. Or another kind of percussion instrument is the kind of that I think most of you would probably guess. If I said, name me a percussion instrument, most of you probably would say the drum. Now there are dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of kinds of drums, but this is just one example, okay? But in order for an instrument to be called a drum, it has a body. It is hollow in some case on the inside. Some of them are large and have a full body to them. Others are just hollow here. But they all have a covering, a stretched covering over that body, and it's called the skin. Now, the reason it's called the skin is because a lot of drums are actually made of animal skin. Not all of them anymore, but that's how they originally were made, where you'd pull it over, just like we have skin on ourselves, drums have skin that's stretched over. And when it's tightly stretched and connected, it makes that noise. Now, there are some percussion instruments that use multiple of those things, like our friend here, which has little cymbals and a drum. So you have basically two different sounds that are being made, both of which are percussive and help to keep the rhythm. And the other thing about any instrument, including percussion, is that the larger the instrument, the lower the sound. So even though I know this has cymbals on it, if you listen to the actual sound of the drum and compare it with this, which is smaller, ideally this should be higher than this. Let's give this a listen. Okay. And then that's higher. All right? Okay, so not everybody has a bunch of hand drums and things hanging around in your house. So how am I gonna annoy my family? Here's how you do it. I'm gonna show you how to make your very own percussion instrument, and it's gonna utilize both something that's shaken and hit. But you guys were all born with percussion instruments anyway. You don't need to make them. This and this is a percussion instrument. The basic percussion instrument that all of us humans have are our hands. That's a beat. That's a rhythm, not a beat. Okay, so we're gonna make a little shaker thing today, and here's what you need. You need 2 paper plates. It doesn't matter what kind, it doesn't matter what size, but it should be white on this side. The less shiny, the better. You're gonna need markers or crayons or pens or pencils or anything to decorate yourself. And you're gonna need something for the inside of the instrument. Now, parents, pay attention to this one. You can use beans, you can use something that is in plentiful supply in the Petrelli household, crunched up pasta. You can use popcorn, or you can use rice. All of these will change the sound that your instrument makes. However, the smaller material that you use, the more likely it is that it might pop out or leak from the instrument, and you don't want that. Because especially if you have little squishy babies like I do, the instrument sort of ends up looking like this, and eventually it's gonna break. And if it breaks and you have rice in here, you have a lot of cleaning up to do. So, step 1, you get yourself a paper plate. Then you take a marker. And then you draw. And it will look something like that. But there's 2 sides to this, so you gotta draw something on the other one. Like this. So I would suggest absolutely decorate it in your personality. Mr. Petrelli loves music, and Mr. Petrelli loves baseball, especially the Red Sox. So make your personality. So for our purposes here, I'm gonna use some beans just 'cause. So I'm gonna move all the other options out of the way, and I'm going to very easily just pour the beans in there. Then I take the other plate, cover it up. Now, to cover it, I'm gonna use staples, and then I'm gonna cover the staples with masking tape. You can do anything you want, but if you just use staples and you use something small like rice, it's gonna come out. So you can glue it if you really want to, but I find that staples help to keep the plates together, and tape can kind of cover up any of the holes from there. So really simple. A handful of staples around the instrument. And then you take your tape, and any way that you want to do it, you just roll it around like this. Cover it up here. I know this is an incredibly enthralling video right now. I'm sure you are glued to your seat watching Mr. Petrelli tape a paper plate together. But you can do it much neater than I'm doing it. I'm just doing it for time. But then, that's all you've done. You now have your own percussion instrument. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. And you can play with all your steady beats. You can play your instrument to songs on the radio, songs on the computer, songs on television. Although if you're watching a movie with your family, you probably don't want to do that. But that's how you make your very own percussion instrument straight from Mr. Petrelli's house. I hope you guys do this. Send me a video of yours. I would love to see how you decorate it and what you use for it and how it sounds. And that is how music works.